I want you to close your eyes for a second.
It's a brief moment.
Yeah, seriously, just for a moment.
Mhm.
Now, I want you to imagine the one thing you do that makes you feel most like yourself.
Right, the core thing.
Exactly. Maybe it's painting where you really need to see the subtle difference between cerulean and azure. Or maybe you're a coder.
Staring at syntax for 10 hours a day.
Right, staring at a monitor all day. Or maybe it's something as simple and profound as reading the expression on your partner's face across the dinner table.
Catching that tiny smirk.
Catching that almost imperceptible smirk that tells you they're joking.
It's basically the input mechanism for our humanity.
It really is. It's the data stream. Now imagine that stream gets corrupted.
Not cut off.
Right, not cut off completely. It's not a total blackout. But it gets staticky.
Blurry.
Yeah, blurry. There is a smudge on the lens that you just can't wipe away. The sheet music you've read for 20 years suddenly looks like a swarm of ants.
The face across the table becomes a silhouette.
Exactly. For most of us, that scenario triggers a very specific and very catastrophic thought.
It's over.
Right.
My life is over.
It is a primal fear. We really equate function with value. If I can't do the thing, then I am no longer me.
Yeah.
And nowhere is this more prevalent and frankly more misunderstood than with our eyesight. We have this culturally ingrained binary.
The sighted versus blind thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're either sighted, meaning you have perfect 20/20 vision and can be a fighter pilot, or you are blind.
Total darkness.
Total darkness, a cane and a guide dog.
But the reality is messy. The reality is a massive gray area. And that is exactly where we are living today.
We are.
We're taking a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of materials titled The Toolkit Strategies for Living with Low Vision.
Specifically, we are zooming in on the narrative arc of episode 16 from those sources.
Right. And I have to warn you, listener, if you think this is going to be some dry medical lecture about diopters and eye charts, you are dead wrong.
It is so far from that.
This is a story about engineering. It's about psychology. It's about hacking reality.
Yes, hacking reality. That's the perfect way to put it.
It really is a profound shift in perspective. The mission of this deep dive is to completely dismantle that binary of blind versus sighted.
We have to tear that down.
We are going to explore that vast and often terrifying middle ground known as low vision, and more importantly, we are going to look at the specific tools.
The toolkit?
The toolkit that bridges the gap between what the damaged eye can do and what the human being needs to do.
I'll be honest, when I first opened the source material, I was expecting something really heavy.
A tragedy.
Yeah, tragedy maybe. But as I got into it, I found myself getting excited, I guess.
It's empowering.
It is.
It's
It's excited, the right word there. It wasn't depressing at all. It was like watching MacGyver.
Figuring a way out of a locked room.
Exactly. It is filled with these aha moments where you realize that a problem you thought was biological, like my eyes are broken.
It's actually just logistical.
Just logistical, yes.
Yeah.
Simple tweaks to reality.
That is the perfect way to frame it. The core philosophy we are going to unpack today is the distinction between needing new eyes.
Which is impossible in many cases.
Right, which, let's be honest, for many conditions like macular degeneration or advanced glaucoma is currently medically impossible.
Yeah.
So the distinction between needing new eyes versus needing new tools.
Which is entirely within our control.
Entirely. This isn't about curing a disease. It's about engineering a solution for daily living.
So let's really get into the weeds here. To really understand the stakes, we need to anchor this in a real story.
We need to look at the human element.
We need to talk about the central case study in our source material. We need to talk about Mike.
Musician Mike.
Yes, musician Mike.
Mike is our protagonist here, and the source material gives us a very specific and very crucial detail about him right off the bat.
He's a professional musician.
Right, and we really have to pause on that because musician isn't just a job description.
It's an identity.
It is. If you're an accountant and you lose your vision, it's a tragedy, sure. But if you're a musician, your entire interface with your art form is visual.
Well, the reading part of it anyway.
Specifically, the language of the art form, yes. The sound is auditory, obviously, but the data entry.
The data entry is visual.
That is entirely visual. Now, Mike's specific impairment is the loss of some central vision.
Right.
And we need to get technical for just a second to explain why this is so devastating for him.
Yeah, let's break down the biology here. When we say central vision, what are we actually losing?
We are talking about the macula, the fovea.
Okay.
This is the tiny pinhead-sized area right in the center of your retina that is responsible for high-resolution detail.
So it's what you are using right now if you're looking at your phone.
Exactly. Or reading a streak sign. Peripheral vision, your side vision, is great for detecting motion.
It keeps you from walking into a door frame.
Exactly, and it navigates space.
Yeah.
But it cannot read. It fundamentally lacks the receptor density to resolve fine print.
So for Mike, the tragedy is incredibly specific.
Yeah.
He can probably see the piano right in front of him.
Yes.
He can see the stage. He can see the audience as a wash of color.
Broad strokes.
But when he looks directly at the sheet music,
It's gone.
just gone.
It is a complete blur. Or worse, it's what we call a scotoma.
A scotoma.
A blind spot right in the dead middle of his gaze. Imagine trying to read a book, but everywhere you look, there is a thumb pressed against the page blocking the exact word you were trying to see.
That sounds absolutely maddening. It's the donut effect, right?
Donut effect, yes.
You can see everything perfectly well except the one thing you are actually trying to look at.
Exactly. And for a musician, sheet music is incredibly dense.
It's tiny.
It's not just words, it's lines, dots, dynamics, accidentals. It is a high-fidelity code.
Right.
When Mike lost that central clarity, he lost his ability to decode the music.
The source describes his reaction, and I think this is where the story gets really profoundly human.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, it doesn't say he was annoyed or frustrated. It says he falls into a deep depression, thinking his life is over.
We really have to sit with that for a second. His life is over.
That is a massive statement.
It is, but psychotherapeutically, it makes total sense. This is what we call identity foreclosure.
Identity foreclosure.
Yes. Mike didn't just lose the ability to see quarter notes. He felt he lost the ability to be Mike.
Because in his mind, Mike the musician and Mike who sees sheet music with his naked eyes are the exact same person.
Precisely. He conflated the method with the outcome.
Oh, wow.
He thought, if I can't read this paper with my eyes as they are, I am no longer a musician.
He assumed that the old way was the only way to do it.
And because the old way was broken, he assumed the career itself was dead.
I think a lot of people would spiral right there. It's that all or nothing thinking.
Very common.
If I can't do it perfectly the way I always have, I just can't do it at all.
And that depression creates a terrible feedback loop.
You just stop trying.
When you are depressed, you stop exploring. You sit in the dark, literally and metaphorically. The source notes that he actually resisted help at first.
Really?
Yes, this is a very common pattern. He didn't want aids. He wanted his eyes back.
Right, because going to a specialist feels like an admission of defeat.
It's surrendering.
It's admitting I am one of those people now. I am disabled.
Exactly. But eventually, the desire to play won out. Or maybe he just hit rock bottom. And that is when he met the low vision specialist.
Yeah, I want to clarify this role for a second because I think most people don't even know this job exists.
Most people don't.
This isn't an eye doctor, right? This isn't the guy who checks your prescription and asks one or two.
No, and that distinction is absolutely vital. An ophthalmologist is a surgeon or a medical physician.
Oh, okay.
Their job is the health of the physical organ. They are looking at the retina, the optic nerve, the intraocular pressure levels.
They're trying to save the biological hardware.
Precisely. But often they reach a point where they have to say, I've done all I can do. The damage is permanent.
And that is usually where the patient feels dropped off a cliff.
Yes.
Okay, my eye is broken. Good luck.
Hi. Right. And that is exactly where the low vision specialist steps in. They are not there to fix the organ.
Right.
They are there to fix the function. They are essentially engineers of lifestyle.
Engineers of lifestyle. I love that.
They look at the patient and say, okay, the hardware is damaged. We can't change that. But we can absolutely change the software.
We can change the interface.
We can change the environment. What is it that you want to do?
I love that shift so much. Goes from what is medically wrong with you to what do you actually want to accomplish today?
It's a functional model of disability versus a strict medical model.
Right.
And Mike walked into that office probably expecting, I don't know, a pat on the back and a white cane.
Right, some pity.
Instead, he got a lesson in physics.
Which brings us to the second major section of our breakdown today. Deconstructing the definition.
This is key.
The source material hits us with this mantra that I genuinely think should be on a billboard everywhere.
It's so powerful.
Low vision is not no vision.
It sounds like a tautology, but it is a radical statement for someone in Mike's position.
It really is.
Society teaches us that binary we discussed earlier, light or dark. But low vision is a spectrum. It is the dimmer switch.
So just because the wiring in the house is a bit faulty doesn't mean the bulb is completely blown.
Exactly. The source challenges the idea that because the vision is broken, it is somehow entirely useless.
Right.
Most people who are legally blind still have some degree of sight. Maybe they have light perception.
Okay.
Maybe they have great peripheral vision, but no central vision like Mike. Or maybe they have tunnel vision, which is great central, but zero peripheral.
So the specialist's job is to map out that remaining territory.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, you have lost 40% of the map, but you still have a solid 60%. Let's figure out how to navigate using that 60%.
And let's figure out how to maximize that 60% so it functions like 90%.
That was the ultimate realization for Mike.
He didn't need his central vision restored to 20/20 just to play the piano.
He just needed to learn how to hack his remaining vision to get the specific data he needed from the page.
So let's get into those hacks. The toolkit.
This is the fun part.
This is the part of the source material that really blew my mind because it is so deceptively simple.
It hides in plain sight.
The first strategy is something I never think about, but now I notice it everywhere I go. Strategy 1 is contrast.
Contrast. We live in a world that is completely obsessed with resolution.
4K TVs.
Yagna displays 8K monitors. We think seeing better always means more pixels.
Right.
But biologically, the human brain actually cares more about contrast than it does about raw resolution.
Why is that? Why is contrast the heavy hitter here?
Think about evolutionary biology for a second. If you are a hunter-gatherer, what do you really need to see?
Threats.
You need to see the edge of the cliff. You need to see the dark outline of the tiger hiding in the tall yellow grass. You need edge detection. Your brain is constantly scanning for boundaries. Where does object A end and object B begin?
So when contrast is low, the brain is just working overtime.
It is struggling. It's constantly guessing. And when the brain has to guess, that creates what we call cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
It is physically and mentally exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
The source gives a brilliant concrete example of this, the coffee cup test.
Okay, lay out the coffee cup test for us.
Scenario A, you have a black coffee mug sitting on a dark granite countertop,
Okay.
and you are pouring black coffee into it.
I could already see the problem. Or rather, I can't see the problem.
Visually, it is just a void. The black coffee blends with the black ceramic, which blends with the dark shadow inside the mug.
There are no edges at all.
There is zero definition.
So you are pouring and you're relying on what? Sound, heat.
You were relying on hope,
Yeah.
and usually you overfill it.
Right.
You burn your hand, you make a huge mess on the counter, and what is the psychological result of that moment?
You feel incompetent.
You think I am completely helpless. I can't even pour a simple cup of coffee. I am disabled.
It reinforces that whole narrative of failure we talked about with Mike.
Exactly. But then we look at scenario B. You take that exact same black coffee, but you pour it into a white porcelain mug.
High contrast.
Extreme contrast. As the black liquid rises, it creates a stark, undeniable line against the stark white wall of the cup.
Your brain doesn't have to guess anymore.
The edge is literally screaming at you. Even if your vision is incredibly blurry, even if you have 2400 vision,
You can still see that expanding black circle against the white background.
you stop pouring at the exact right time. You don't burn your hand. You feel totally competent.
And note the cost of this intervention. What did it cost to switch from a black mug to a white mug?
$5 at a homeware store.
$5. It is a completely low-tech solution.
It requires no batteries, no doctors, no surgery.
It just requires what they call environmental engineering.
Environmental engineering, yes. You are modifying the world to fit your eyes rather than constantly trying to force your damaged eyes to fit the world.
The source mentions that this applies to practically everything, not just coffee. It's really about safety.
Oh, absolutely. Think about stairs. This is a huge one for low vision.
Yeah, stairs are terrifying.
If you have carpeted stairs that are all one shade of beige and the lighting in the hallway is flat, that is a literal death trap for someone with low depth perception.
Because where does the step even end?
You can't tell. It just looks like a continuous ramp going down.
But if you put a strip of high contrast tape, like bright yellow or stark white, on the nosing of each tread,
Suddenly, the geography of the room snaps right into focus. You have defined the edges.
that reduce the cognitive load.
You have restored safety.
I love the idea of defining the edges. It almost feels like a metaphor for life. But here it is, literal physics.
It is literal physics.
Yeah.
And for Mike, understanding contrast was step one. But contrast alone doesn't solve the sheet music problem entirely. You can have high contrast sheet music, but if the notes are microscopic, you still can't see them with a scotoma.
Which brings us to strategy 2 in the toolkit: magnification and lighting.
Yes.
And I really feel like lighting is the unsung hero here.
It truly is. The specialist introduced Mike to a digital magnifier.
Now, when we hear magnifier, we usually think of Sherlock Holmes with a heavy glass lens.
Right, the magnifying glass.
But digital magnification is a completely different beast because it allows us to manipulate polarity.
Polarity, yes.
Polarity, that sounds like something out of Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually mean in this context?
It refers to the relationship between the text and the background. Standard print, like books, newspapers, sheet music, is what we call positive polarity,
Black ink on a white background.
which is how we have been printing things for hundreds of years.
Right. And for a healthy eye, that's perfectly fine.
Yes. But for a damaged eye, especially one with cataracts or corneal issues or macular degeneration, that white background is a massive problem.
Why is that?
Because white paper reflects light. It reflects about 90% of the ambient light in the room right back into your eye.
So it's kind of like staring directly into a flashlight.
Precisely. And if the lens of your eye is cloudy, that incoming light scatters, we call it veiling glare.
Veiling glare.
It is like driving with your high beams on in a thick fog at night. The light doesn't help you see the road at all. It actually blinds you.
It washes out all the contrast.
Exactly.
That is such a good analogy. The fog is literally inside the eye.
Yes. So the digital magnifier allows Mike to completely flip the polarity. He can switch to negative polarity.
White letters or notes on a pitch black background.
Dark mode, basically.
The ultimate dark mode.
Think about the physics of that for a second. A black screen emits almost no light at all.
Right.
The glare is gone, the fog just disappears. The only thing emitting light on that screen is the notes themselves.
So instead of being blasted by a solid wall of white light, the eye just receives the specific data points it actually needs, the notes.
It creates a massive signal-to-noise ratio improvement.
Signal to noise.
The background noise, the glare drops to zero, the notes completely pops, and suddenly combined with the ability to make those notes 500% larger on a screen.
The source actually says suddenly Mike is playing again.
We really need to linger on that word, suddenly.
It wasn't a gradual thing.
It wasn't a year of intense therapy. It wasn't a slow, painful recovery. It was a literal toggle switch.
Click inverted colors. Click zoom in.
And the music was just back.
It is almost hard to believe it is that simple. He went from my life is over to playing Beethoven just by changing the color scheme.
It really highlights how fragile the concept of disability can be. The disability wasn't just existing in Mike's eyes.
It was relational.
It was at the intersection of his eyes and the sheet music. When we changed the sheet music via the digital screen, the disability evaporated in that specific context.
It is incredible, but I want to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Because if it is really this simple, get a screen, invert the colors. Why did Mike resist it in the first place? Why do people resist these tools so much?
That is the million-dollar question. And the source material addresses this with a very provocative analogy.
It calls these tools wheelchairs for the eyes.
Let's unpack that. The source says if you lose your leg, you get a prosthetic or you get a wheelchair. You do not just sit in bed forever.
Right. If you saw someone who lost a leg refusing to use a wheelchair and just dragging themselves across the floor, you would say, what are you doing? Use the tool.
Exactly. We accept mobility aids as a society. We build ramps for them into our buildings. It is socially codified.
But with vision, it feels entirely different.
It is different. There is a massive stigma attached to it. The source argues that low vision aids like magnifiers, telescopes, high contrast screens are functionally the exact same thing as wheelchairs.
They restore access to the world.
But people do not want to use them.
I wonder if part of it is that you can fake vision in a way you just can't fake missing a leg. Like Mike can sit at a table in a restaurant and pretend to read the menu.
That is a very profound point. It is the concept of the invisible disability.
Invisible disability.
They can pass as sighted, but the cognitive cost of passing is absolutely astronomical.
It's stressing the whole time.
You are sweating, you are anxious, you are constantly guessing, you are terrified of knocking over the water glass and blowing your cover.
So using the tool like pulling out the magnifier in public is an outing.
It is a public declaration I cannot see.
Exactly.
It makes the invisible disability suddenly visible, and that takes a lot of courage. It requires Mike to get over his own internalized ableism.
You have to make a choice.
He has to say, I would much rather look like a blind person playing the piano beautifully than a sighted person sitting in silence.
Wow. I would rather look like a blind person playing than a sighted person sitting in silence. That is the ultimate choice.
That is the choice. And once he finally accepted the wheelchair for the eyes, the digital stand, the high contrast screen, he realized that the tool didn't diminish him at all.
It liberated him.
It completely liberated him.
The source says, these tools help you navigate the world differently. And that word differently is the key.
Ugh, it's not normally.
Right. It's not normally, it's differently.
And differently is totally fine. Differently gets the job done.
Okay, so we have talked about the psychology of it all, and we have talked about the specialized gear.
Yes.
And usually when we do these deep dives, this is the part where the listener starts clutching their wallet.
Preparing for the sticker shock.
Because specialized medical devices usually means you have to add a 0 to the price tag.
Right. A dedicated CCTV video magnifier for reading used to cost $3,000 or $4,000 easily.
And they were huge.
It was practically a piece of furniture. You couldn't just carry it around to a restaurant.
But the source material throws us a total curveball here, a massive plot twist.
The best kind of plot twist.
It says you have a $1,000 low-vision device in your pocket right now.
The smartphone. This is the single greatest equalizer in the entire history of accessibility.
The source is very directive here. It says go to your phone settings right now.
Right?
So I want to actually do this. Listener, if you are not driving right now, pull out your phone. I am pulling out mine.
Let's walk through it together, because most people only use about 10% of their phone's actual capability.
Okay, I am on an iPhone, but the source notes this applies to Android phones too.
Yes, both platforms have this.
So I am going to settings. Then I am scrolling down to accessibility.
Stop right there for a second. That menu accessibility is almost always ignored by sighted people.
They just scrolls right past it.
They think, oh, that's not for me. But inside that specific menu is a suite of tools that practically rivals a high-end medical clinic.
Okay, I am in the menu. I see display and text size.
Go in there, you will see a toggle for bold text. Now turn that on.
Oh, okay. The phone just rebooted the interface for a split second. The text is really chunky now.
It's not just thicker, it actually is slightly wider. It grabs the pixel grid and physically expands the stroke width of every single character on the system.
Wow.
For someone with low contrast sensitivity, this is literally the difference between gray mush and highly legible words.
It really pops. It is impossible to miss.
Now back out and look for magnifier. This is often a hidden app on most phones. You might actually have to enable it in the control center.
I found it. Okay, it opens up the camera, but it definitely looks different than the normal camera app.
It is entirely different. It is a dedicated digital microscope.
Let me test this.
Pointed at something really small. The stitching on your jeans? Or a receipt on your desk?
Okay, I'm zooming in on this paper. The quality is insane. I can literally see the individual fibers of the paper.
Now look for the filters button within that magnifier app.
Okay, found it.
You can tap a button and turn the real live world into white on black or yellow on blue.
Wait, I am doing it right now. I am looking at a magazine cover on my desk. I just flipped it to inverted. The white page just turned pitch black, and the black text turned stark white.
Just like Mike's sheet music.
Exactly like Mike's sheet music.
You just turned your everyday phone into a $3,000 medical device.
That is mind-blowing.
You can hold that right over a menu in a dark, moody restaurant. You can hold it over a tiny prescription bottle. You can even use the phone's flashlight within the app to add artificial contrast.
And the best part is it's not a medical device that looks medical.
Oh, right. It just looks like a phone.
It just looks like I am checking a text message or taking a picture of my food.
Exactly. It completely removes the social stigma. Everyone is looking at their phones constantly anyway.
Nobody cares.
If you use your phone to read a menu, nobody bats an eye. It allows you to pass as normally sighted while still heavily utilizing the tool. It is basically stealth accessibility.
Stealth accessibility. I love that. It is the absolute democratization of aid. You don't need a doctor's prescription. You don't need insurance approval and a 6-month wait. You just need to know which menu to click on the device you already own.
And that really brings us all the way back to the concept of agency.
Right.
When you lose vision or any major capability, the overwhelming feeling is a total loss of control. The world is just happening to you.
You are a passive victim.
But knowing that you can just reach into your pocket, toggle a few digital settings, and physically bend reality to fit your eyes, that gives you your agency right back.
So let's bring this all home. Let's synthesize Mike's entire journey based on all this.
Yes, let's retrace the steps.
We started with a man who was ready to completely give up his life's passion.
My life is over. That was his absolute starting point.
And we end with the final verdict on his case from the text. The source explicitly states he didn't need new eyes, he needed new tools.
That is the bumper sticker right there. That is the entire thesis of this deep dive.
Right.
Mike went from deep depression to playing music again, not because his scotoma magically healed.
Right.
His eyes are physically exactly the same as they were on his worst day.
Let's trace the actual steps, because it wasn't magic. It was a very deliberate process.
First was the massive mindset shift. Realizing that low vision is not no vision.
Breaking that binary.
Breaking the binary. That is what got him out of the chair and into the specialist's office.
Second was the environmental shift. Truly understanding the physical rules of contrast.
The white mug the tape on the stairs.
Realizing that he could actively engineer his own safety and capability.
And third was the technological implementation. The magnification and the polarity.
Flipping the light.
Using the wheelchair for the eyes to bypass the biological hardware failure.
It's like he was trying to run a marathon in diving fins.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
He thought his legs were broken. He thought he was done. But the problem wasn't his legs at all, it was the fins.
Once he put on running shoes, the right tools, he could run the race again.
It is such an incredibly hopeful message, but it's also a highly practical one. It really reminds us that disability often happens exactly at the intersection of a person and their environment.
Right.
If you change the environment, you can drastically change the degree of the disability.
That is essentially the social model of disability in a nutshell. We very often cannot change the physical body,
Biology is incredibly stubborn.
but we can almost always change the environment around it. We can change the ambient lighting, we can change the font size on a screen, we can change the contrast of the objects we use every day.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave the listener with a real challenge.
Something to take away.
We've gone from the simple, everyday physics of pouring a black coffee cup to the profound philosophy of creating a prosthetic environment.
It has been a huge journey from hopelessness to cure strategy.
And for you listening to us right now, maybe you have perfect 20/20 vision.
Or maybe you don't.
Right, maybe you don't. But I can almost guarantee you have areas in your life where you feel totally stuck.
Where you feel like you just can't do something.
Where you feel like your life is over in some small way, like, I can't learn this complex language, or I can't fix this broken relationship.
Right. It's that same identity foreclosure.
Remember the primary lesson of those smartphone settings we just walked through?
The world has settings.
Yes. Reality has a menu.
It really does. We just blindly accept the default settings of the world. Small print, low contrast standard methods.
And we assume that if we cannot function perfectly within those defaults, we are the fundamental problem.
We think we're completely broken, but the truth is you can always go into the menu.
You can toggle the switches.
You can turn on the bold text of your life.
You can swap the black mug for the stark white mug.
You can finally ask yourself, am I actually failing because I am fundamentally incapable, or am I simply failing because I am rigidly using the wrong tool?
That is the big question to carry with you today. Are you desperately trying to fix your eyes when you really should just be reaching for a new tool?
Go out and explore your settings.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.